Hello, everyone. This is Richard Carlton for another exciting video webinar episode here with Claus from Data Maniacs. I like to say Data Maniacs. How are you, Claus?
I'm fine. And you?
We're doing well. And so Claus is our ace guest speaker here that he likes to come and give us lots of great knowledge and information about the FileMaker platform. And specifically today, we're talking about building navigations with the new button bar capability. And not only doing that, but doing it really smartly so it kind of auto configures and it helps you save time, right, Claus?
Yeah, well, the idea is that you code smart and not hard. That's the headline for this topic. So if we just go in here and we have some very, very simple layouts, there's nothing in this file beside this technique. But we need to show a button bar here. So if I press the button, it just automatically appears. And we have a dashboard, contacts, orders, invoice, just some standard modules. We can even change the language to other, French, German, and Danish, because I'm from Denmark, and of course English. And the entire idea here is that you implement this technique in your solution for the first time. You will have some modules already in, but then after a while you need to expand your solution and get in yet another module, and another module, and another module. And the thing we have done in the past was that you need to go over all those layouts again and replace the navigation system. But the idea here is that you just copy and paste this button bar into every layout that needs the navigation system, and then it will automatically just expand, or kind of automatically expand. But the idea is that you don't have to go over 20, 30, 40, 50 layouts and replace that object again and again just because you need to add another module. Another thing is that if you have some users that are, let's say, they are not allowed to use the invoice module, with this technique it's very, very easy to build in a way of just not showing that button, so they don't have an easy way to get to the invoice module. So how is this done? Let's enter layout mode. And the first thing you can see is that I have this button bar object, and it is not just the 5 buttons, but it's actually 20 buttons. So in this technique I have said that we have a limit of 20 modules. That has to be enough. And then using some code I can automatically fill out the button names and which segment is highlighted as well. The styling is, well, this is just one styling I have just made for this technique, but obviously you can just style it the way you want and make sure you save that as a custom style and save it into your custom theme, and then you can just go and restyle it and it automatically propagates to all your layouts with this great custom style technique. So in order to set this up and use it in a smart way, at least in my opinion, we need to have a few things set up first. One thing is to have a convention, and the reason is that we prefix all layouts with a module prefix. So in this example I have just used a 6-letter prefix. So here I'm saying, well, ENT is like interface, dashboard, file, local, table, whatever you want to call it. And I have created one for desktop, DT, for desktop, web direct, and for phone. And it could also be for iPad, but whatever you want to make it. But then the idea is that, of course, you have for the contacts, maybe you have a contacts detail layout, you have a contacts list layout, you have a contacts whatever layout, and a contacts printing layouts, print A, B, C, whatever it is. And this technique handles knowing the navigation to the right layout. I have just made it very simple here with the detail and list layout, or at least they are supposed to mimic that they are detail and list layout. And then it's also prefixed with the this is contacts, invoice, orders, offers. So this is kind of a prerequisite in order to make this work really smart. And the reason is that when I'm at this layout, I know that I am in the context of the ENT-DT for desktop. You can call it whatever you want, whatever it fits, but I have a custom function that helps me know where I am. And this custom function is very, very simple. You can also use this without the custom function, but now I have just coded and used this custom function because it allows me to change if I change my mind or I need to do it different in another solution. So I just use the left function and get the layout name and 6 characters. The first 6 characters is my get layout module prefix. So that's what these GLM are supposed to stand for. By using these prefix in the layout names, every layout I am at, I know where I am because of this prefix. So this is a prerequisition, and you can easily change this to anything else if you want to. So as I know where I am, I can also easily specify here which segment is the highlighted ones. Maybe I should start another place, because the way I'm telling the solution which button should be active is by setting a script here that is load menu into globals. So if I just minimize this a little bit, there's a lot of comments here I've put into the script in order to explain what's going on, but it's really, really simple. I have 2 global variables. One is a list of modules, and when I say modules, I really mean the prefix of the modules. So in this case, I have a list of ENT-DT, desktop, desktop, offers, orders, invoices. So that's the prefix that I need to match in the layout name. That's very easy. And because I just had to put in some language things, I have an if and else if statement here, but that's the module names. And this is what I want to have on the actually buttons in the button bar. So dashboard, contacts, offers, orders, invoice. And the only thing I do is load these 2 global variables, and then I refresh the object of the menu bar in order to make it refresh. So you could easily change this. So let's say you're on a module and you want to change this button bar to have sub-modules in the context of, well, it could be in a contact. You want to have several sub-menus, and then you could just have the leftmost button being a back button, for example. And then you can just change the module names by changing those 2 global variables and refresh the button bar if it's not refreshed by switching layout. So it's very easy, and you can also put in permission saying if this user is not allowed to see invoice, then just go and omit invoice button from the button set bar. So this is how the modules get propagated and populated. And as you can see in the data viewer, we have here the 2 global variables. And this is what drives the entire button bar. So if we go in here and say, well, we are on which module, so here's another custom function I will get back to, but basically we look into the list of modules and say, okay, this is my module I'm standing on, the ENT/DT, which is the prefix, and I just want to find the first variation of this. And if it matches, then highlight this module. We have it's over here, the inspector. And because I pressed the number 4 button, I have named those buttons from 1 to 20. So this is how I return the position of this prefix in the module list. And it happens to be number 4, then it's going to highlight the button number 4. Of course, this can also be changed to other things, but in this example, it's just named 1 to 20, presuming that you're not using that object names in your solution.
I was going to mention that, it's a couple areas to watch out for here, of course, is making sure that you don't have duplicate names somewhere. And of course,
exactly.
Everyone's asking right now, has been asking, hey, can we get this file? And we're going to make this file available, correct?
Yeah, sure, for sure.
Yeah, so you don't have to worry about copying each, writing notes down and taking notes in the video, but just, I think the graph...
No, you'll get the file, but this is just explaining how it works, because it's a little bit more advanced than just for a new beginner, but I think it's fairly easy to understand, and it saves you a lot of time.
Yeah.
The same goes with the name, is also get the value of the module names, and this was button number 5, so that's why it's number 5, and then it goes on. And all buttons is set up to call the menu script with the value of the module prefix. So in this case, we are on button number 9, and we call the module prefix number 9 in the list of modules. So this is basically how it works. And then there's just another thing. So if you can see here, there's an I, meaning that each individual button has a hide object when. So this is also very easy. So what we're saying here, I clicked on button number 9, and the calculation says if value count of the module names is below 9, then this button should be hidden. So in other words, if there are less than 9 module names in the global, then hide this object, which is the button itself. And the same goes for all the other buttons, just with another number, the same number as the button has. And then this is how the buttons that are not in use are being hidden. And because with this new button bar we have the anchoring to both sides and to the top, this means that the button bar automatically resizes into a larger number of, well, if you take out a button, it just automatically fills all the spaces between.
Yeah, it's
this is very quick.
14 creates equidistant buttons based upon the number of buttons and the overall dimensions of that object, which is really a cool feature in 14. I want to point out, and you said something just a moment ago, that this is a little bit more of an advanced technique, although it's pretty easy to understand. And that is because it's a little bit more of an advanced technique, it's not something that we put into FM Starting Point. And I've been asked about this a number of times. So let me be clear about this. The reason we don't put it in FM Starting Point is that when people go into layout mode, what I don't want them to see is I don't want them to see that across the top, because that looks visually different than what they see here. And what I try to do with FM Starting Point is to keep the mental gymnastics at a minimum. And so I think this is important because a lot of people ask about Starting Point and what we do and what we don't do. And if Starting Point was really made for advanced developers, then we would implement this technique. But we also need new people who are coming into the platform to understand what FM Starting Point's about. So we like the menu bar to look consistent between browse mode and layout mode. And that's the one rub with it, is that as soon as you make it dynamic, it starts to look very different. So for those of you who are asking about Starting Point and wondering, that's why. So.
And there's a reason you call it FM Starting Point and not continuing point.
Yeah, or finished or whatever, or FM's advanced tool for developers. Yeah. And so, of course, this has a very valuable for your more advanced developers, but for brand new people, I think this is maybe a little mentally much. But like I said, so this video is more for intermediate advanced, I guess, or people that have been using it probably a year, FileMaker 6 months or a year anyway. So.
Yeah, but if you're a newcomer, then this could also show that there is a future. Just because you're not on the level of being able to integrate this technique, you can see that there's a lot of things possible with FileMaker.
Absolutely, and that gets into a lot of the issues with the starter solutions, FileMaker's starter solutions. Those starter solutions are decidedly not for beginners, but are designed specifically as technology demonstrators to show how cool and how far FileMaker can go in doing some rather advanced things. And so this is great for that. I was just pointing that out because I'm going to get about 20 emails immediately from people when this video comes out that'll ask that question. So
good. Okay. This is basically how the button bar works. So we load into globals 2 global variables that has a prefix, and there's a module name that you want on the button. And we covered how each button was hidden if there wasn't enough values in the global variable, and how each segment is showing as active. So then I would just go into the script. So there's basically 2 scripts in this technique. So loads menu globals we have just looked at, and then there's the menu, which is very very simple as well. This is what it takes. So let me just run through. So the first thing we do is to just put in a script variable saying, well, whatever script parameter we get in with, we just set that into a variable here. And the script parameter we get in with, if we look here at the menu saying this is the module prefix and the number 3 because I clicked on the third button. So it's the module prefix that we come in with here, okay? Then we have a type. So the type is, it's my word for saying, okay, are we going to a detail layout or a list layout or whatever layout that we have? And this is a kind of unique identifier for the layout. And if we look here, there is also a lot of explanation about what's going on here, so you can read about that. But with the dashboards, we don't have a detail or list because they are just a little bit different. So this calculation is just saying, okay, if the module is ENT-DT for desktop or WebDirect or PH for phone and PA for iPad, then the unique name in the layout name we need to look out for is dashboard. Otherwise, we are just going to detail. And of course, you could change this to, I want to start out on list view. So you could just change this. Or if it is the contacts, then I want to start out in list view. Otherwise, I will start out on the detail layout when I use the navigation. So this is where you put in anything that differ from just the standard. So this was the type of layout we want to go with. And then we have an error dialog variable here. And that's just, you can put in an error message to your users. That's really just a way of doing it. And then we calculate the layout. What's the layout name of the target layout? So what goes on here is there's some error checking, but basically we use a custom function saying we are looking for the module layout. We have a module here, which is what we set in the script variable of mod, which is basically, well, the script parameter. So it could be, in this case, con/dt for contacts desktop. Because obviously you can use this also on iPhone and iPad as well, or WebDirect, and maybe you want separate layouts for this. And then the type we came up with. So we are looking for the contacts detail, for example. And then we are just having some error checking here and say if it's empty and we can't find the layout name for whatever we are going with here, then we are outputting an error. And the error is tested for here and say, okay, if we got an error, we couldn't find the layout we were looking for, then display a custom dialog saying whatever error message that we set up here. And if there was no error, meaning we could find a layout name, then we just simply go to the layout by layout name by calculation, because we just got the layout name up here in this variable. So really simple. Basically, we could just put in the calculation in here and have, instead of this variable, we could just have the entire calculation in script step, and then, well, basically the navigation was one single script step. I allowed myself to expand this a little bit because my experience is that you need to have some error checking and some handling of this. But this is the navigation script. It's very simple. And because it's all dynamic and it's looking at the list of layout names and looking for the prefix, you basically never need to touch this unless you need to put in for the type another variation of the detail or list. But if it's the default going to the list view or the detail layout, then you can just add modules, and the only thing you need to do is to put it in here, put in another module prefix, and put in another module name. And if you want to change the name because it doesn't sound as good, so you're just going to change it in this load menu globals script. And that's basically what there is to it. So, sounds simple enough, right?
No, this is pretty awesome. And the whole idea, of course, is that despite all the stuff under the hood, once you implement it, to set up a new button is really simple. I mean, how many steps is it? Count the steps it is to set up a new button. Let's walk through that just beginning. Despite all the
To set up a new
complexity.
button.
Yeah, set up a new button.
So let's say we, first of all,
create a new layout. We need a new layout.
Yeah. Well, I'm the kind of guy who likes to use the duplicate, so let's just do that.
Okay.
So let's say we have, what can we get? We could have a product.
Yeah.
So we are prefixing with PRO, and we assume that we have a table for this. There's only one table in this example, but we have created the table. So this is the detail layout for products, and this is the list for product here, and PRO.
Yeah, now we have two layouts that we can leverage, which is great. So how do we connect those?
Exactly. Well, just by putting into this module, saying we need another module, which we just put in here, PRO/DT for desktop. Here we go, and we need to give it a name for the button, product. So we save this and load menu globals, and there the button goes, and it's just working.
Very
so
cool.
Now you could put in your field.
Yeah. So excellent. So you see how simple that is to implement once you have it implemented. So it's a little bit of work, I think, to get bolted in. I mean, obviously you can start with a sample file, but for most people, they're going to have something they're already working on. They want to put this in, so they'll implement this. There's a little bit of work, but then going forward, the maintenance is really minimal, really minimal.
This is really minimum. I mean, if you have a solution, the biggest thing you need to do is to decide up on a module prefix and put that into your layout names, and make sure that you have a unique identifier in the name, which I have used here as list and detail. Because what this navigation function do when it looks for the layout name, it says, okay, every layout I can find in the solution that is prefixed with the same prefix as PRO/DT, I get a sublist of that, and within that sublist I look for a unique word. So within a group of layouts that is existing for the same module, there needs to be a unique word. And basically the product name here is just something I have put in because I think I find it convenient. But from the prefix, I could have a convention saying, okay, that makes sense, that PRO stands for product or offer, or that's actually what I already did.
I have a question. So what if we wanted to do product catalog right now? I mean, I think if we did that, I mean, the opening extension there, the opening initials there would have to be kind of redone a little bit, correct?
No, we could just catalog here.
Yeah.
We could just create a new layout with this catalog name, and it will still work.
So it still works either way. That's really cool. Yeah.
Because it's looking for the detail, that's the unique word. So in existing solutions, maybe this part will be the biggest thing you need to do. Other than that, there is actually here an integration guide. So there's 4 steps in order to implement this into your own solution. First of all, go to custom functions. There are 4 custom functions that drives this solution. Copy those custom functions and paste them into your solution. Great. And then you go and copy the scripts, and the scripts is just this folder, which basically only have 2 scripts because this is just a comment script. And then you just copy this folder into your solution. The third thing is copy the actual menu button bar. And on the first layout in your solution where you insert this button bar, make sure you style it as you want it to appear in your solution, and give it a name and save it as a custom style, and then propagate it into a custom theme. so that when you copy that newly styled button bar onto 50 or 100 layouts, or how many layouts you have in your solution, then they are all named with the same custom style name, so that you can go and make changes to that custom style and propagate it through your custom theme. And
Yeah,
that's really what it is.
yeah, that's important. I mean, if you're more of an intermediate advanced developer, I mean, this gets into scalability and performance, and we have a number of videos that we talk about this, both free videos and also in more detail on our learning FileMaker.com. We have a video course for FileMaker Pro 14. And scalability and performance in FileMaker are important things to be aware of, and making sure that you use custom themes and shared styles. We have a whole section of videos that talk about that. And Claus is not emphasizing the magnitude of this, but it's important that this operates really fast. And I think if you had 4 or 5, 10, 20 users, it operates plenty fast. It's not a performance issue there, but it's the actual loading of the layout. And so when you actually have a 3G connection on an iPad and you're across, hundreds of miles away from the server or even across town, potentially the loading of that object up there could be slower than it needs to be. And that's where using a custom theme and shared style will help the performance. So this video is really not about that, but Claus brings up a good point to make sure that you save it off as its own theme, and then that gets saved into the style itself, and then those styles are the styles that you use. And if you look at FM Starting Point, you'll see that we have our own custom theme, and we try to use shared styles all along. So if you're not familiar with what I'm talking about, dig into the videos or purchase our Learning FileMaker Pro video course on that. And we talk about that probably for an hour of getting under the hood and performance tuning and things like that. So now I think the other caveat here with this, and it's, I guess, obvious because Claus is a very senior level developer, to implement all this, you're going to need FileMaker Pro Advanced, not regular FileMaker Pro, because you're going to need access to the custom functions, right? And then
Exactly.
copying
That's right.
and pasting scripts, I think that's a Pro Advanced feature. I don't remember off the top of my head, but I believe that to be the case. So certainly, this is another area where if you're becoming an intermediate or advanced developer and you haven't moved into Pro Advanced, you need to do that. So what other parting comments do we have? I mean, you need Pro Advanced to get this implemented. And then additionally, for performance, you want custom themes and shared styles.
Exactly. And I could just say that this technique, you can just copy and paste it, and it works fine on FileMaker Go as well, and FileMaker WebDirect, and of course on desktop. So this is really a cross-platform technique that can be used everywhere.
Absolutely.
So if we look at the button bar, and we have these great possibilities with adding an icon. So why didn't I put in an icon? Well, they are really great with the icons, but when you have a technique like this where you want it to be pretty dynamic and you can change things around, then you would also need to have dynamic icons. And we don't have a way of calculating which icon that we should display in this button bar. So that's really why I have just omitted the icons in the button bar and just stayed with the name instead.
Yeah, to be clear, the button bar in 14 is the first time we've seen this feature. And I know a number of people have requested to make this better, with the icons being function of the calculation engine, so you can calculate which icon is in there. I don't know if that's going to be a feature in an upcoming release of FileMaker, but I know it's been mentioned by you and by other people numerous times as kind of, kind of an oversight a little bit. So just keep in mind that's why there are no icons, is because we can't dynamically calculate them. And of course, we have written up our wish list of FileMaker and sent it to them. So
yeah, do that on their website.
Well, Claus, tell me about yourself. I mean, you're obviously an ace hitter here in the FileMaker community. That's why we like to talk to you and have you show us cool things in the product. So, I mean, how can people get a hold of you if they want to talk to you?
They can go on the website. datamaniacs.com is the website. You can go and find me on LinkedIn. We also have a Twitter account and, the stuff you need to have. So that's a way of looking. Also going to have a presentation at this year's developer conference just right after the keynote about FileMaker Go 14.
Wow, very cool. Well, once again, I want to thank Claus for coming in and doing a great job for us. And I want to remind everyone that there is a FileMaker Pro 14 video course. It's about 33 hours in length now. It's a pretty beefy course. And it covers a great deal of the FileMaker platform in detail. But just want to thank Claus for doing a great job and remind you that if you need more training, learningfilemaker.com is a great place to go to. So that's it for this week with Richard Carlton and Claus Lavendt. And we'll see you next week.